Look closely. This is a real human being, frozen at the exact moment they died, 2,000 years ago. Not a statue, where no pastor Leon Bransoverband who blend. No sculptor carved it. It's the hollow that a living body left in the ash. At the instant it was killed, and they were not alone. An entire city was caught like this in one afternoon. Men, women, children, even a chained dog. One morning it was alive, 20,000 people. By the next afternoon it was gone, silent for 1,700 years. This is Pompeii, and what destroyed it is still standing today. Stay with me, because the final hour will give you chills. To understand how a city dies, you first have to see it alive. In the year 79 AD, Pompeii was unmistakably alive. It was one of the jewels of the Roman world. 20,000 people on the sunlit coast of Italy. Rich and loud. By ancient standards, it was almost impossibly modern, a city of pleasure and business, humming from dawn until long after dark. Running water in lead pipes. Public baths. Bakeries whose ovens still stand today. Even fast food counters lining the busy streets. Theaters that seated thousands. Gardens perfumed with roses. Villas painted in reds and golds so vivid the colors still survive today. And above it all stood a mountain. The Romans called it Vesuvius, and to them it was a gift. Beautiful and harmless. Its slopes were green with vineyards and farmhouses. And here is the terrible part. These people had no idea it was a volcano. Beneath their homes, a chamber of molten rock had been filling for 800 years. And now, the pressure reached its limit. There had been a warning no one understood. Years earlier, an earthquake cracked the city's walls, and Pompeii was still being rebuilt. In the final days, the tremors returned. Wells ran dry. Animals grew restless. But earthquakes were common here, so nobody left. Then, around 1 in the afternoon, with almost no warning, the mountain everyone trusted tore itself apart. Vesuvius exploded. Not with lava, but with a column of ash and rock, blasted miles into the sky at nearly twice the speed of sound. In the Forum, people stopped and stared up in horror at the black pillar spreading across their sky. Across the bay, a commander named Pliny the Elder watched it climb. His nephew's letters are the only eyewitness account we have. Then the sky began to fall. First came the pumice, light stones raining down by the millions, burying the streets. Some understood and fled toward the sea. Thousands escaped in those first hours. If you left early, you lived. But thousands more stayed. They sheltered indoors, pillows tied to their heads, waiting for it to pass, like a storm. And the pumice kept falling, hour after hour. Roofs groaned, then collapsed. For 18 long hours, the sky rained stone. Sometime in the dark of that long night, the eruption changed. The towering column could no longer hold itself up. It collapsed. And when a column like that falls, it does not drift down gently. It comes down like an avalanche. An avalanche of gas and ash, superheated to hundreds of degrees, roaring down the mountain at 100 miles an hour. Scientists call it a pyroclastic surge. You cannot outrun it. By the time you feel it, it has already reached you. The first surges reached the coast, and the villa where Pliny the Elder had sailed to rescue his friends. He never left. Then, at dawn, a surge reached Pompeii itself. It poured over the city walls like a living, breathing thing, Peter Senkin-Oliavold it. The heat killed in an instant, so fast that many died mid-motion. frozen in the exact pose of their final second. Behind it came meters of ash, sealing the city in a gray tomb. When the sky cleared, Pompeii was simply gone. For 17 centuries, the world forgot it existed. Grass grew over it. Farmers plowed the fields above it. Then, in the 1700s, workers struck ancient painted walls, and slowly, a lost world rose back into the light. But the most haunting discovery came by accident. Strange, hollow spaces in the ash, with fragments of bone inside. An excavator named Giuseppe Fiorelli realized what they were. When the victims were buried, the ash hardened around their bodies. The bodies decayed away, leaving a perfect human mold. So he poured plaster in, let it set, and a person came back. Not their bones, their shape, their posture, the fold of their clothing, the way they held on in the final moment. A mother shielding a child, people who died side by side, and the dog, still twisted against its chain. Today you can walk the streets of Pompeii, stand in its bakeries and gardens, and still see Vesuvius on the horizon, because the mountain is not gone. 3 million people live in its shadow right now. It will erupt again. The only question is when. Pompeii isn't really a story about the past. It's a story about how quickly the ordinary world can end. The people of Pompeii never got to say goodbye. But because of them, we get to remember. Subscribe to Shez Studio.